$1 billion pledged to protect humanity from uncontrolled AI. That was OpenAI in 2015, a non-profit, open source, safety first. By 2021, its top safety researchers had walked out, convinced the organization had become the very danger it was built to prevent. The betrayal that followed didn't just split one company. It fractured Silicon Valley over a single question: who gets to control the race toward AGI? And it all traces back to one compromise. On December 11, 2015, a small group of researchers and tech executives filed incorporation papers in Delaware, establishing OpenAI as a charitable research laboratory. Sam Altman, then president of Y Combinator, joined forces with Tesla chief Elon Musk, research scientist Ilya Sutskever, and developer Greg Brockman, along with researchers Wojciech Zaremba and John Schulman. They set up operations in a modest, unmarked building at 575 Florida Street in San Francisco's Mission District. The founders focused entirely on artificial general intelligence, or AGI, software capable of performing any intellectual task at a human level. The early culture at this Florida Street office resembled an academic lab. Inside, a tight-knit team worked at shared desks, publishing their research papers openly and releasing early code. They operated under a strict charter to ensure that AGI would benefit everyone, free from the requirement to generate financial returns. Backed by a $1 billion funding pledge from Musk, Peter Thiel, and Reid Hoffman, the team believed they had the financial runway to prioritize safety over commercial speed. They positioned themselves as a public benefit counterweight to search engine giant Google, establishing a moral baseline that would soon face intense pressure. This posture defined their initial mission, keeping their focus entirely on public safety. By 2018, the reality of training frontier artificial intelligence shattered the assumption that philanthropy could fund the mission. The computational power required to scale deep learning models was doubling every few months, demanding millions of dollars that charitable donations could not provide. On March 11, 2019, the board executed a fundamental restructuring. They established OpenAI LP, a for-profit subsidiary structured as a capped profit company. Under this arrangement, investment returns were capped at 100 times the original capital, with all excess gains flowing back to the nonprofit parent. This hybrid design aimed to secure venture capital without fully abandoning the founding safety charter. 4 months later, on July 22, 2019, Microsoft stepped in with a $1 billion investment. This partnership designated Azure as OpenAI's exclusive cloud provider, turning Microsoft's massive server infrastructure into the computing backbone of OpenAI's research. In return, Microsoft secured preferred licensing rights to commercialize these emerging technologies, integrating OpenAI's models directly into its corporate product lines. While this cash infusion secured the necessary computing power, it reshaped the incentives inside the San Francisco office. For safety-minded engineers, the arrival of commercial milestones and the pressure to deliver marketable products introduced a persistent tension, aligning research priorities with corporate demands and raising early fears that scaling speed would overtake safety guidelines. In mid-2020, OpenAI prepared to launch GPT-3, a model with unprecedented language capabilities. This technological leap transformed a theoretical debate about safety into an active internal crisis. Dario Amodei, the vice president of research, stood at the center of the mounting friction. Amodei and his team of safety researchers warned leadership that the organization was rushing unaligned models to the public. Unaligned models are AI systems that act outside the values or intentions of their creators, potentially generating harmful or unpredictable outputs. The concern was not merely academic. A report from the Middlebury Institute soon warned that GPT-3's power could be weaponized for radicalization and automated disinformation. While the safety team advocated for tighter access controls and further alignment testing, commercial demands pulled the company in the opposite direction. The Microsoft partnership had introduced a commercial licensing logic, requiring OpenAI to monetize its breakthroughs by opening up a public API for developers. Inside the San Francisco office, the culture began to splinter. Safety researchers felt their reviews were being treated as minor speed bumps rather than essential guardrails, describing the company's efforts as safety theater. The original promise of open-source collaboration was colliding directly with the realities of corporate licensing. This disagreement hardened into an ideological fight over whether the lab's primary duty was to push the boundaries of raw capability or to halt progress until safety could be guaranteed. In late 2020, the ideological split inside OpenAI turned into a permanent separation. Dario Amodei resigned his post as vice president of research. He did not leave alone. His sister, Daniela Amodei, OpenAI's vice president of safety and policy, resigned alongside him, accompanied by 9 senior researchers, including GPT-3 lead author Tom Brown and interpretability pioneer Chris Olah. In January 2021, the group established a new institution in Delaware, Anthropic. The founders designed Anthropic to resolve the governance failures they observed at OpenAI. They registered the company as a public benefit corporation, a specific legal structure that obligates directors to balance shareholder interests with a defined public benefit. This design made safety a binding fiduciary duty, meaning the board could face lawsuits if they prioritized market speed over public safety. To support this legal framework technically, the team introduced constitutional AI. Unlike methods that rely on human ratings, constitutional AI trains a system using a written set of principles, such as the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The system continuously critiques its own outputs against these rules, making the alignment process visible and auditable to outsiders. The creation of Anthropic split the race for AGI into 2 competing philosophies, one prioritizing rapid scale, and another seeking to prove that safety could be engineered directly into a company's charter and code. On November 30th, 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public, igniting a global artificial intelligence boom and gaining millions of users within weeks. No longer confined to academic papers, the race for AGI had entered the consumer market. Anthropic responded in early 2023 by deploying its own flagship model, Claude. This was not just a battle over performance metrics, but a public contest of governance philosophies. While OpenAI marketed speed, raw capability, and deep integration, Anthropic pitched Claude as the ethically bounded, harmless alternative. To match OpenAI's scale, Anthropic secured immense infrastructure commitments, up to $40 billion from Google and up to $25 billion from Amazon. These massive cloud alliances guaranteed the gigawatts of compute power required to train frontier models. The ideological split inside the San Francisco offices had transformed into a global market conflict, forcing the public to choose which corporate vision of artificial intelligence they would trust. At noon on November 17th, 2023, the OpenAI board fired Sam Altman. Chief Scientist Ilya Sutskever, alongside board members Helen Toner, Tasha McCauley, and Adam D'Angelo, delivered the decision after months of escalating tension over transparency and rapid commercialization. The board cited a breakdown in candid communication, framing their intervention as an emergency measure to protect the founding safety charter. Though an employee revolt reinstated Altman 12 days later, on November 29th, the crisis exposed a fundamental systemic failure. The earlier Anthropic split was no longer a historical footnote. It was a warning that went unheeded. As billions in capital continue to flood Silicon Valley, the central question remains entirely unresolved. Who will ultimately govern, direct, and control the path to AGI? Today, the race to AGI is a high-speed corporate sprint. By splitting to ensure safety, these rivals may have instead accelerated the danger. The question is no longer who wins, but if we can survive their victory. Share your thoughts below.